Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, it's John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to the third day of official Ixalan previews. We got a lot of cards to look at today, a number of reprints actually, some pretty interesting ones. So quickly before we get started, if you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to help support us, keep us making videos, one of which is our Amazon affiliate links. If you make any purchases on Amazon, once you go through any of those links, no matter what it is, a small percentage will come back to help support the channel. It really goes a long way. You'll also find our Patreon page below, and finally Flipside Gaming is also linked below, and they provided a promo code for our viewers, which was really awesome. So with that being said, let's get into the cards for today. This one comes to us from a French language preview, loosely translated Twilight Vampire. It costs a white, Vampire Cleric, 1/1, flying, pay a white and tap, target attacking vampire gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Now that we're a little bit deeper into the previews, we're starting to see a small theme start to emerge with some of these commons and uncommons. And it's these low casting cost, low power toughness flyers with abilities attached to them. It's going to be interesting how that plays into maybe the draft environment. We'll have to see once we get more of the set revealed. There's another card coming up that maybe clues us into what you could do with some of these cards. This one in particular, maybe not as exciting as some of the ones we saw earlier in the week, the blue one and the black one that we saw over the last couple of days where small flyers with really good abilities attached to them. This white one, it's got an okay ability. I mean, if you are really deep into vampires and you're drafting vampires, this could be a decent pickup late in a pack for you in draft, for example. But this is not the card that's going to make your cut all the time, unfortunately. It's okay, again, for vampires, but the requirement for what it's doing just feels really steep for me. Tapping it plus paying the white, and it only works on target attacking vampires, so you can't even use it for blocking purposes. Now, with that being said, if you have a number of vampires and you're attacking in, this does make blocking more difficult for your opponent. They're going to have to really think about potentially what could happen when they line up those blocks. So I do like that, and if you have a couple of these in play, then it gets even worse for your opponent. But the problem is, are you really going to take that much of your deck space up with these cards when you could maybe play a 2-drop that could be really good instead of this 1-drop? So that's ultimately the question you're going to have to answer when you're building your deck out of your sealed or draft pool. But again, I think it's okay to run one of these, perhaps if you're pretty heavy on vampires. Alright, this next card is what I was alluding to just a moment ago. Favorable Winds. It's a blue and 1 enchantment uncommon. Creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. This is a reprint. Let's talk about limited first. If you're drafting, for example, this isn't really a first or second or third pick necessarily for you. But later on, maybe middle of the pack, middle of pack 2, if you have a fair amount of flyers and you feel like you're going to have enough targets for this, yeah, it's a very good card for you and can actually be really good in some decks. Same with your sealed pool. If you have enough targets, then yeah, run this and you'll be pretty happy with it. As for standard, I don't really see it there. I mean, it's not very expensive. It interacts very well with flyers, but it's a real awkward draw if you're behind and maybe you just came off a board sweep or something. And there's a lot of board sweeps out there in the environment. That's not going to change with rotation. So don't necessarily see that being a strategy that's going to pan out necessarily, at least in this current meta. But beyond that, though, this is a great limited card. I think it's a fun reprint, if nothing else. Here's another reprint. This is Opt. This was premiered by the professor today from Tulare Community College. He actually showed 3 cards. We'll talk about them all today, but this one came from Invasion. It's been a long time, so this is the first time this card will be modern legal. It costs 1 blue. It's an instant, common, scry 1, draw a card. Real simple. In some ways, not a lot to say about it. Big question is, will this be good in standard? Will this be good in modern? And what I like about it is it's an instant. It's a 1 casting cost instant that lets you advance through your deck a little bit quicker, and it replaces itself. I feel like this could see modern play in some decks. I feel like this will definitely see standard play, especially in some control decks. The fact that it's an instant is awesome because you can hold on to it, and at the end of your opponent's turn, if there's nothing else you need to do, you can just use this and try to get through your deck a little bit quicker and find the cards that you really need. So this is really sweet, actually, and I'm looking forward to see how it plays in the current environment, because it's been a really long time, obviously, since we got to sit down and play with this card. Beyond that, it's also going to be good for you in Sealed and in Draft. In Draft, I don't think it's a super high pick, but it's a nice utility pick, maybe later in a pack. All right, now we have another reprint, and perhaps you've heard of this one. It's a little card called Spell Pierce. It costs a blue. It's an instant common. Counter-target non-creature spell, unless its controller pays 2. All right, this was originally printed in Zendikar. Did get a reprint in Modern Masters 2017. You can pick up those copies for around 50 cents, but this is a card that its power on the battlefield really transcends its monetary value quite a bit. This is back in Standard, and that's going to be a huge deal in the upcoming meta. This is a great boost for control decks. I was a little concerned about control decks. I mean, we saw some control hate already previewed, and even the last set, there were some cards that didn't really help their cause. But this time, we're seeing a card that could really boost those decks. So this makes things a lot more interesting when it comes to what the meta is going to look like come the end of September through October. So this is exciting. Really cool to see this card back in Standard, and anyone who's played with it in Modern or even Legacy, you know how good this card is. It's incredible. As far as Limited goes, okay, maybe it's not quite as strong in Limited games of Draft and Sealed compared to Constructed games, but it's still good, because even though Draft and Sealed tend to be creature heavy, when your opponent plays that combat trick where they play that removal spell, if they don't play around this, and a lot of players won't play around it because it only costs one, just a 1 blue instant, that they're just going to try to force something through and hope you don't have it, they can be severely punished for it. Really good card. I mean, maybe not a first pick or something like that in a draft pack, but a great high-end to middle pack pick that's an awesome utility card. Stormfleet Aerialist, a blue and 1 human pirate, uncommon, flying 1/2 with raid. If this enters the battlefield after you attacked with a creature this turn, it will come in with a +1/+1 counter on it, making it a 2/3 in this case. So another small flyer that potentially could be a 2/3, and if it was buffed by, say, favorable winds, all of a sudden you got a pretty sizable flyer on your hands. So that could be one of the draft themes they're trying to get at, and it's starting to slowly reveal itself. Overall, though, I think this is a decent card. As long as you feel pretty comfortable that you're going to be able to attack in regularly, then yeah, this is very runnable. I mean, you want this to be a 2/3. It's okay as a 1/2 flyer for 2, but you really want this to be a 2/3 flyer for 2. Duress. All right, here's another one of those reprints that the professor showcased today. 1 black, sorcery, common. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. That player discards that card. I don't have a lot to say about Duress. I mean, it's been reprinted a million times, and we know it's good. We know what it does. This will be in Standard. Yada, yada, yada. I mean, there's not much I can say about it. It's good in Limited, too. It's maybe not as good in Limited as it is in Standard or other constructed formats, just simply because your Limited games are going to be pretty creature heavy, and there's times you could miss with this. But you know what? Even if you hit one card off of it, sometimes that's a key card that's a important enchantment or artifact or even sorcery or instant for your opponent that you can take out of their hand. And it's also free information. All this for 1 mana is pretty good. But what I really want to point out about this card is I think this is the most beautiful, amazing art that Duress has ever had. Just really fantastic art here. Next we have Wily Goblin. It's 2 red, Goblin Pirate, uncommon, 1/1. When this enters the battlefield, create a colorless treasure artifact token. Now, I've really thought hard about this card, and I was trying to figure out where I'd want to use it, like what decks it fits into, and what I came up with basically is this is all about color fixing and maybe a tad bit of ramp, but mostly color fixing. What's unique about this card is typically if you're going to go deep with colors in, say, Draft or Sealed, you want your core color, your main color, to be green, because there's a lot of green cards that will allow you to color fix. This kind of turns that idea on its head a little bit and says, you know what, here's a red card that you might be able to pick up that could color fix, so maybe you could go core red and fix your color a little bit. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking a little too much about it, but I thought it was interesting if nothing else. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, would you pay 2 red for just the ability to get the treasure token and perhaps fix your color and ramp a little bit? Yeah, some decks probably would, quite honestly. Some of your sealed pools would want this if you're trying to go a little bit deep and get a little greedier. Same with your draft. So it's not a high draft pick at all, something you can pick up a little bit later, especially if you're concerned about your color requirements. But it's nothing really special. It still is a pirate, so that could come into play at times. That could matter depending on other cards that you have or what else hasn't been revealed yet, right? But ultimately, I think I would be a little higher on this card if it was a red and 1. But I don't know, 2 red, again, if I'm desperate enough to fix color, yeah, then I'll run it. But other than that, it's probably not going to make my cut. Stormfleet Arsonist, a red and 4 Orc Pirate uncommon 4/4 with raid. When this enters the battlefield, if you attacked with a creature this turn, target opponent sacrifices a permanent. One thing I do want to point out about that raid ability, it's okay. Like, I like edict effects, but sometimes edict effects are good because they just isolate creatures. So it boxes your opponent into a corner, basically. They have to give up one of their creatures. If they only have one creature and it's, say, a hexproof creature, then that was a pretty good edict for you. This gives them more options because it's all their permanents. If they're flooded on land, they can just pitch to land. They won't care. If there's some small creature they don't care about anymore, like that pirate we just saw, they could just pitch that and just say, hey, I got what I wanted out of it. It just gives them options, and that can be a little bit awkward. But with that being said, a 4/4 is still a decent sized body, and again, as a pirate, a lot of times that will matter. So yes, this does certainly fall into the realm of playable in both sealed and draft. It's probably not a super high draft pick for me or anything like that, but maybe another middle of the pack pickup, which is a good curve filler if I need something with some size behind it at the 5 spot. Savage Stomp, a green and 2 sorcery uncommon. This will cost 2 less if it targets a dinosaur you control. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, then that creature fights target creature you don't control. It's run-of-the-mill, green removal for limited. In a lot of ways, there's nothing too unusual about this other than that dinosaur clause, and that's actually pretty sweet. If you're running a dinosaur-based deck, or even if you have a few good targets that are dinosaurs, you might be able to play this for 1 green, and that feels actually pretty good to me. I like the card a lot. It is the fight mechanic, but that's kind of typical for green. You don't want to get too spoiled by cards like Ambuscade. Sometimes you get those, but usually the cards that are removal for green look more like this. Every once in a while they get a small upgrade, but for the most part, this is going to be what you're going to be drafting and using out of your sealed pool. And it's just fine. You'll be happy with it in limited games. And in fact, it's a pretty high pick if you want to be in green or are planning to already be in green, sometimes even first pickable. Slice in Twain. Now this is the non-reprint card that the professor got today. It costs 2 green and 2. It's an instant uncommon, destroy target artifact or enchantment, draw a card. So when you first look at this, you kind of think, well, I mean, Naturalize kind of did the same thing for just 2. You just didn't draw the card. I mean, Disenchant was the classic version of that. So is it really worth paying 2 more to draw the card? Well, definitely in limited, I think it is, because look at it this way. This is a card you're going to be boarding into your sealed or your draft deck, right? You're not going to start off with it for the most part. So you board it in to deal with a threat you've already seen. How many threats are you that concerned about that your opponent's going to play on turn 1 or turn 2? There might be some, but for the most part, they're going to cost a little more in their resource department. So if that's the case, now maybe it's turn 3, 4, or 5 that your opponent plays this threat, and you can easily respond to this on turn 4, 5, or 6, right? And seems like it's good enough, and it replaces itself. So I feel like this is actually very viable for sealed and for draft. Again, as a sideboard card, not a high pick, something you pick up towards the end of a pack just to have in case you need it, sort of thing. But it's still very playable in those circumstances. As far as standard goes, though, I'm afraid that you're just going to opt for something cheaper if you need to pull some sort of, say, artifact or enchantment destruction out of your sideboard. Regisaur Alpha. This one costs a green, a red, and 3. It's a dinosaur. This one's a rare. 4/4. Other dinosaurs you control have haste. When this enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 green dinosaur creature token with trample. Okay, maybe my favorite card of the day here. This card is just a beater. Look at it this way. You're putting this into play for 5 mana, and you're getting 7/7 power toughness on the board for 5 mana in the form of this 4/4 and the 3/3 token. That's super sweet. Not to mention other dinosaurs you control get haste, so that includes that token coming in as a 3/3 haster with trample. Yeah, this is pretty awesome. So this is a key part of this whole dinosaur tribe, no doubt. So if there is a standard deck that's good enough to hang in the meta, has all the pieces it needs from this set to make a dinosaur stompy or dinosaur ramp deck or something like that, then this will be a key part of it, and it's going to be awesome, right? If those pieces don't quite come together, well, okay, this is still an awesome commander card if you're going to try to go deep with some dinosaurs or some beasts or something like that. And secondly, of course, this is a limited bomb. Now, sometimes it's awkward to first pick a gold card like this, but I don't know. There's a lot of packs I probably would just take the risk and see if it pans out. Because if you can force dinosaurs once you pick this up, you're probably going to have a good day. This is going to be awesome if you're already in dinosaurs and you open this like pack 2 or pack 3. You're going to be really happy to see this card. Really phenomenal inclusion here. I'm excited about this one. Alright, with that being said, those are the cards for today. So we got some pretty interesting ones, a lot of really cool reprints actually, and I'm looking forward to find out what comes out over the next few days. HasCon is coming up this weekend, so I'm sure there'll be some big reveals there. Maybe we'll see Veraska there. I'll definitely report on everything that comes out of the event, as well as just all the other regular preview cards that come out between now and then. So until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.